Angel Reese reveals the truth behind Caitlyn Clark's move to Europe. Shutting down swirling rumors, Reese clarifies that Clark's exit is purely a financial decision. But Angel Reese couldn't just let Caitlyn Clark's European contract unfold quietly. What does she do? She makes her mark in her own bold way, taking control of the narrative.
Yeah.
Yep,
She is the worst fucking basketball player.
In the WNBA, we've never witnessed anything quite like this. With relentless determination to stir the pot, Reese, still entangled in her own steroid scandal, takes a swipe at Clark. She accuses players of chasing paychecks while using racism as a convenient excuse to garner sympathy.
And spent hours putting together an 8-minute video with interlude clips all to trash Angel. Why?
But when the entitled complaints are coming from Angel Reese, it makes news throughout the mainstream media.
And it's obvious she's directing that at Clark. What's wild, though, is that Caitlyn has never once said anything negative about Reese or any other black player. Yet today, for some reason, I can't help but feel that some people just don't deserve the courtesy of silence.
Wow. From Angel Reese.
Let's be real. Caitlyn Clark heading to Europe isn't just about exploring new opportunities or securing a bigger paycheck. No, it's about escaping the toxic environment the WNBA has become. At first glance, the league might seem like the perfect fit for someone of her caliber, a player practically born to dominate. But the reality was far from that. She wasn't just out there playing basketball, she was navigating scandals and judgmental looks as if they were part of the game itself.
Entitled players in the WNBA just can't seem to understand is, you get what you put in, and right now, you are getting exactly what you deserve.
Why? Because she chose to stay silent while others tried to paint her as the villain. Some of her own fellow athletes, and even a few media personalities, went so far as to label her a racist. Seriously, where did they come up with this stuff? But Clark, being the composed and level-headed player she is, never took the bait. She didn't waste her energy responding to these absurd accusations. Instead, she stayed focused on the one thing that truly matters: basketball. Yet, the controversy around her kept growing, like a bad plot from a reality show.
So I think it's really just the fans, her fans, the Iowa fans, now the Indiana fans.
And then Elisa Thomas, clearly not one to shy away from conflict, took things a step further. She went public, accusing Clark of being responsible for racist remarks made by her fans. Yes, you heard that right. Thomas held Clark accountable for the actions of random spectators in the crowd.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Absurd, right? It wasn't even about what Clark did or said. No, Thomas was just deflecting, trying to shift the spotlight away from her own issues. She bundled all her frustrations, jealousy, and whatever else was bubbling up inside, wrapped it into a tidy accusation, and hurled it straight at Clark.
Then she had a press conference where she cried and everybody's so mean to me. Well, she's continued the stupidity. I mean, she cheered on her teammate as she shoved Caitlyn Clark, knocked Caitlyn Clark in the head, and a bunch of other stupid stuff.
Here's the thing. Caitlyn didn't have to do anything wrong to become a target. The admiration she received from fans, the way her name dominated every highlight reel and headline, it was enough to ignite a blaze of jealousy within the WNBA. And it wasn't just from random trolls online. It came from the very players she shared the court with. Instead of celebrating her greatness, some just couldn't handle it.
It's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it.
Angel Reese had her moment in the spotlight, no doubt about that. But let's be honest, Caitlyn Clark's rise was on a completely different level. And it was clear that Angel wasn't too happy about it. While Clark was quickly becoming the face of the league, Reese found herself on the sidelines, watching as the spotlight shifted away from her. Resentment began to simmer. Both players had spent their entire careers grinding for the recognition Clark was suddenly receiving as a rookie, taking it all like it was nothing. Instead of upping their game, some chose to let jealousy speak for them. Suddenly, everything Clark did was under scrutiny. Any chance to drag her down? They seized it with both hands.
But who gives a rat?
That's why, for Clark, Europe feels like a sweet escape. It's not just about playing in a different league with a fresh energy. It's about finally breathing air free from the toxic fumes that had been suffocating her in the WNBA. The jealousy, the petty accusations, the constant drama. It had all drifted far from the essence of basketball. And Clark knew it. She didn't owe anyone a single moment more in that chaos.
No, it's going to Caitlyn Clark fans are mean. And if Caitlyn Clark fans are mean and they're white, where does this head? Oh, you know it goes to racist.
While her critics are busy stirring the pot, Clark is already miles ahead, doing what she does best, letting her game speak louder than the noise. Her decision to play in Europe instead of staying in the WNBA during the offseason was her way of saying, I don't need to stick around for this nonsense. Let's be honest. The atmosphere surrounding her in the WNBA had little to do with basketball anymore. It had turned into a jealousy-fueled frenzy, with players and commentators jumping at every opportunity to tear her down. Not because of what she accomplished, but because of how the world was celebrating her. And to them, that was the real issue.
Now they found another victim. The fans of Indiana. Now, I'm going to side a little bit with these idiots.
She didn't just throw shade. She brought the whole dump truck and unloaded it. Reese claimed Clark's decision had nothing to do with escaping the WNBA's dumpster fire atmosphere. Nope. Reese wanted everyone to believe it was all about one thing: money. According to her, Clark was simply chasing the big bucks, dismissing any talk about toxic teammates or dirty play. In Reese's eyes, it was just a smokescreen. But let's take a step back. Is this really about money? Or is Reese trying to shift attention away from her own issues? After all, her name is still splashed across headlines because of that steroid scandal she's entangled in. Her career is hanging by a thread. And when you're that deep in the mess, it's easier to point fingers at someone else than deal with your own problems. So instead of owning up to being caught with performance enhancers, Reese seems to be saying, if I'm going down, I'm taking Caitlyn Clark with me.
Her attention, her notoriety is based off Caitlyn Clark. Because she wins the national title, first thing she does, she mocks Caitlyn Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal with Caitlyn Clark.
Here's the twist. Reese didn't just stop at calling out Clark. Oh no, she went all in, suggesting that every player in the WNBA, including Clark, is just in it for the money. The irony? You could cut it with a knife. This is coming from the very player whose career tanked after being caught doping for a competitive edge. It's classic deflection. She's sinking in her own scandal, so now she's tossing accusations around like confetti to divert attention from herself.
But Angel Reese, so she's sort of embraced a Draymond Green role here. But the eyeballs on the WNBA really have to do with Caitlyn Clark.
Let's not forget the timeline. Clark's European adventure was announced in mid-October 2024, just as the WNBA season was coming to a close. Meanwhile, Reese was already in the hot seat, facing a storm of backlash over her steroid suspension. Headlines had been dragging her name through the mud for weeks. By the time Clark was gearing up for Europe, Reese had already been in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Steroids, EPO, anabolic drugs, you name it. Her reputation was in ruins.
I do think that some of this drama, and she started some of it, to be fair.
Here's Angel, trying to portray Clark as the greedy one. It's almost laughable. Meanwhile, Reese is facing the possibility of a lifetime ban, lawsuits from the Chicago Sky, and a career that's circling the drain. Yet, she has the audacity to act like Clark is the one making shady moves. Fortunately, the sports world isn't falling for Reese's narrative. Analysts from Stephen A. Smith to Patrick Bet-David have been roasting her for her blatant hypocrisy. They're calling her out for using Clark as a distraction from her steroid scandal, and the public? They're done with Reese's antics.
All of that. It's real. We want to act like, well, let's not focus on that. Let's just march forward and let's just move forward. Well, guess what? You can't move forward when you ignoring the past.
When you take a step back and see the bigger picture, Reese's downfall didn't begin with Clark's European adventure. It actually started when those steroid allegations broke the news in early September 2024. That's when Reese tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, sending shockwaves through the WNBA. The league was turned on its head. Reese was suspended, her coach, Teresa Weatherspoon, was fired for allegedly covering for her, and the Chicago Sky even slapped her with a lawsuit. Meanwhile, as the drama unfolded, Clark was out there doing her thing, quietly stacking up wins.
Death threats, I've been sexualized, I've been threatened, I've been so many things, and I've stood.
But Reese couldn't bear to watch Clark thrive. Let's be honest, it's no secret that Reese has been green with envy over Clark's success. Her attacks on Clark were far from coincidental. Their timing aligned perfectly with the downfall of her own career. As things spiraled out of control for Reese, she became even more relentless in going after Clark.
Continued to play into it last night by getting ejected, and it's almost like it's all scripted. This is perfect for the WNBA. She's all the talk. She's the one standing up there in front of reporters saying, I need all of you guys to realize there's two of us that changed the game of women's basketball, and it's not just Caitlyn Clark. I was a part of that.
It's the kind of drama that makes you wince, watching a player once hailed as a rising star in the WNBA fall to this level. Remember when Angel Reese was setting records and being hyped as the next big thing? Those days feel like a distant memory. Now, her name is more associated with a steroid scandal than her accomplishments on the court.